Going to record Parshas Vayikra, Chumash Rashi. Try to record till Sheni. Vayikra al Moshe, Hashem called to Moshe, Vadabar Hashem Elov, Hashem spoke to him, Me'oil Moed Lemor, from the Oil Moed saying. Rashi says, Vayikra al Moshe, L'chol Dibros, every time it says in the Torah, Vaydaber, L'chol Amiros, whenever it says Vayomer, L'chol Tzivuyim, whenever it says Lashon of Vayitzav, a command, so whether it's speaking, saying, or commanding, always Kod Makriya. Hashem always called Moshe first. Calling somebody before you start speaking to him is Lashon Chiba. It's a language of love, affection. But Vayikra with an Aleph is a Lashon, is an expression, Shemalachi Yashar is Mishtamshin Bay, that angels use it, Shenemar, as it says, V'kora Ze El Ze. When they call to one another, before they say Kadosh, Kadosh, they call to one another with an expression of love, and that's why it says V'kora with an Aleph. But to the prophets of the nations of the world, when Hashem speaks to them, Nigla alayim b'loshen aroi, Hashem appears to them in a language of temporariness, like He happens to speak to them, but there's no call of love. B'loshen tumah, it's even a language of uncleanliness. Shenemar, as it says, without an aleph, Vayikar Elokim El Bilam, and Hashem happened upon Bilam, because Vayikar is like Loshen Mikra, just so happened, or carry, which is an unclean discharge. Vayikra Moshe, he called to Moshe, Kol Holech Hamagia LaOznav V'Chol Yisrael Lo Shomen. The voice came all the way to Moshe, but the Bnei Yisrael did not hear God calling Moshe. We know that in the Torah sometimes there is a pei or a samach, means there's a gap from one section to another. Those are called parshiot, and those are interruptions. Yochel, I would think, Afla Afsakot Hoita Kriya. I would think that every time there was an interruption, God had to call him again. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, Vayidaber, L'dibur hoisakriya v'loy la'afsakos. Only when there was a new section of speech, only there was a new Vayidaber, Hashem called him first, but not after mere interruptions. What was the purpose of the interruptions? Litan revach l'Moshe, gives Moshe some time, Lizboinen ben parsha leparsha, beninyan le'inyan, to think things through between one parsha and the other, and one subject and the other. All the more so that a simple person learning from a simple person needs some time to reflect. Elav, Hashem spoke to him. To him is Lemait as Aaron. Hashem spoke to Moshe, not to Aaron. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, Yud Gimel Dibros Nemru B'Torah LaMoshe Ula Aaron. You're going to find that 13 times in the Torah it says, Vaydaber Hashem El Moshe Vel Aaron, which would mean, seemingly, that Hashem spoke to both of them. But, ukenegdan, corresponding to 13, Nemru Yud Gimel Miyutim, there are 13 times in the Torah where the Torah uses an exclusionary word. L'lamedcha, these 13 exclusionary words teach you, Shelo la'aron Nemru, that even though it says, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe l'Aaron, Hashem never spoke to Aaron, Elo l'Moshe sheyomer l'Aaron. He specifically wanted Moshe to pass it on to Aaron. Ve'elu hen Yud Gimel Miyutim, and the 13 exclusionary words are, L'daber ito, to speak with him, Medaber Elov, speaking with him, Vaydaber Elov, and he spoke to him, V'nai adati l'cha, and I'll meet with you. Kulam, all the exclusionary, all the 13 words are found b'Torat Kahanim, and the Braita that relate to Sefer Vayikra. So there are 13 exclusionary words corresponding to 13 times when it says Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe vel Aaron, to understand that it was exclusionary. Hashem only spoke to Moshe, and the vel Aaron means he should pass it on. Yochel Yishmut Kol Akriya, I would think that everyone heard Hashem calling to Moshe. Talmud Lomer, it says Kol Lo. It could have said Kol Lo, the voice to him. Instead it says Kol Elav, which is a more intimate expression, the voice to him. Moshe Shemeh v'chol Yisrael lo shamu. Moshe heard and the Bnei Yisrael didn't hear. So first of all, Moshe only heard Hashem calling him to come into the Ol Moed, and even before Hashem spoke to him in the Ol Moed, Hashem called out to him, but nobody else heard. So when Hashem called Moshe, whether it's called him in or called to him when he started to speak, it was exclusively to him. May Ol Moed, from the Ol Moed, Malamed, it teaches us, Shayakal Nifsek v'lo hoya yotze chutz la'oel. The voice of God stopped and didn't emerge outside of the Ohel Moed. Yochalam, I think, B'nei Shakol Namuch, maybe it was a low voice. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, Et HaKol, the Hey is the voice. Mahu HaKol, what's unique about the voice? Hu HaKolam Furish B'Tilim, this is the voice described in Tilim. Kol Hashem B'Koach, Hashem's voice is powerful. Kol Hashem B'Hodar, Hashem's voice is glorious. Chayla Hashem shover arozim, Hashem's voice can break cedar trees. In Kain Loma Nemar Me Ol Moed, such a powerful voice, so why was it only in the Ol Moed? Melamed Shayakol Nifsik, it teaches us that Hashem wanted His voice should cease and end without exiting the Ol Moed. Kiyotzaboy, similar concept is found in Yechezkel, V'kol Kanfei Akruvim Nishma Ad HaChatzer HaChitzana. The sound of the wings of the cherubs could be heard until the outside courtyard. Yochel Shakol Namuch, I would think that the sound of the wings of the cherubs was a low sound. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, Kekol Kel Shakai Bedabro, as powerful as the voice of God when He spoke. So if it's such a powerful voice, so why did the voice only go to the outside courtyard? Once it reached there, it stopped. So once again, God's voice is very powerful, but God can control His voice with all its power as far as how far it should go and to whom it should go, and not further, not to anyone else. May Ol Moed Lemor, God's voice came from the Ol Moed saying, Yochel, I would think Mikol Abayit, I would think the voice came from the entire Ol Moed. Talmud Lomer, no, it came Me'ala Kaporet. The voice of Hashem came down from heaven and then emanated from the top of the Kaporet, from the top of the lid of the Aron, which was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Yochel Me'ala Kaporet Kula, I would think it came from the entire surface of the Kaporet. Talmud Lomer Mibein Shnei Akruvim, it came from between the two cherubs. So the voice of God came down from heaven to between the two cherubs, and from between the two cherubs it crossed the Parochet into the Ol Moed where Moshe was standing, and he heard it and no one else did. Lamor saying, Tzei v'amor lem divrei kavushin, go tell the Jews words that will capture their heart. Bishvilchem hu nidbar imi, it's only because of the Jews that God speaks to me, Moshe. Because shekeim atzinu shekol lamed chashana shal Yisrael b'midbar kemenudim, we find that for 38 years that the Jews were in the desert as if they were banished or excommunicated, min hameraglim va'elach, after they sent the spies until the end of the 40 years, lo nisyachar adibur Moshe, it never says vaydaber Hashem al Moshe. Shenamar, because the pasuk says vayikasher tamu kol anshe ha-milchama lamut. When all the people who can go to war between 20 and 60 finished dying, when all those who had sinned at the sin of the meraglim finished dying, only then vaydaber Hashem elai lemur. Only then did Hashem speak to me, saying, Elai to me hoya dibur. So the Bnei Yisrael should be encouraged by the fact that Hashem only speaks to Moshe if the Jews merit. They didn't know this yet, but the proof will be that for the 38 and a half years that the Jews didn't merit, Hashem didn't speak to Moshe. Davar Achar, another explanation of the word lemor, saying, Tzei v'amor lem dvorai, go tell them my words, v'ashiveinim yikablum, and bring me an answer if the Jews are willing to accept my words. Moshe Nemar, as it says in Parshas Yisro, Vayoshev Moshe divrei Moshe brought back the words of the people back to Hashem, saying that they accept Hashem's commands. Pasuk says, Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'amar ta'aleim, speak to the b'nei Yisrael and say to them, Odam ki yakriv mikem korban l'Hashem, a man who chooses to bring a korban to Hashem, min aveim, can bring from animals, min habokar, min atzon, from cattle or tzon. Tzon is a general word including both sheep and goats. Takrivu et korbanchem, you can bring your korban. Rashi, Odam ki yakriv mikem kishe yakriv, if he chooses to bring the korbanos nedava dibar ha'inyan. This particular topic is talking about voluntary offerings. Adam, why does it say Adam rather than Ish? Loma Nemer, why the word Adam? It's a hint. Ma Adam Arishan Lohikriv min Agezel. Adam could not bring anything from stolen property. Shakol Hoya Shalo. He was the only one around and everything was his. Af Atam Lo Takrivu min Agezel. You cannot bring a korban from something stolen. If you do, it's invalid. Ha Behema, whenever it says a Behema, sometimes it includes wild animals as well. Yochel Afachai B'chlal, I would think it includes undomesticated animals. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk specifies bakar, only cattle, v'tzon. In fancy English, tzon is called ovine, O-V-I-N-E, which includes sheep and goats. Min ha-behema, min is an exclusionary word. Not all animals are valid. V'lo kula, not all. Lahotzi et haroveya v'et hanirva. A male or female animal that sinned with a human being used a male or female animal for a disgusting purpose, they can't be used as a korban. Min ha-bakar, again, the min is an exclusionary word. Lahotziat ha-nevad, an animal that was worshipped for avodah zarah cannot be used as a korban. Min ha-tzon, again, the min is an exclusionary word. Lahotziat ha-muktzah, to exclude an animal that was dedicated to avodah zarah cannot be used as a korban. The vav of umin ha-tzon, the vav is another flag. Lahotziat ha-nogeach shehemis, to exclude an animal that gored and killed someone, cannot be used as a korban, even though the animal is not going to be executed because there weren't two witnesses. But if the owner knows that this animal killed someone, he can't use it as a korban. Kishomer lamata meninya min habakar is going to say again min habakar, again another exclusionary word. Shein Talmud lomer, didn't have to repeat it again. Lahotzi atratreif, the animal, to exclude an animal that has a mortal defect is not qualified to be used as a korban. It's invalid. Takrivu, you shall bring. Takrivu is plural. Melamed sheshnaim misnadvin ola b'shutafut. Two people, Mr. A and Mr. B, can chip in together and bring a voluntary korban. That's why it says plural takrivu. Korban chem is again a plural word for korban. Melamed, this teaches us shiba nidvas tzibur. There's a voluntary korban that's a voluntary korban from the greater public. He oilas kayetz hamizbeach. This is an oila when the mizbeach doesn't have any korbanos, which I'll explain. Haba min hamaysarois, that comes from surplus money. In short, the Jews gave a half shekel every Adar, and all the half shekels were put into a chamber. 2 weeks before every holiday, before Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, money was taken from the chamber and put into boxes, and from the money in the boxes they brought the daily korbanos of the public. When the next holiday came around and there was still money in the boxes, the money was put aside, so whenever the mizbeach was empty, a korban was put on, so the mizbeach should never be empty. This was considered a donation, but since it comes from public money, it's a donation from the public. Haba min hamaysoris, it comes from the surplus money, that every yontif you had surplus money that was left over in the boxes from the last yontif. Im ola korbanai min abakar, if he brings a korban ola from cattle, zochar tamim, a male animal without any physical defect, yakirvenu, he should bring it. El Pesach Almoed Yaakov also, to the entrance of the Almoed he shall bring it, L'Ritzono L'fnei Hashem, for his will before God. Zochar, Rashi says, V'lo nekeva, for a korban ola it has to be a male and not a female. Kishomer Zochar Lamata, when it says Zochar again later, Shein Talmud Lomar, which it shouldn't have said Zochar again, there it's teaching me Zochar V'lo Tumtum Vandrogenes. It has to be a male, and it can't be an animal that doesn't have the genitalia of male or female, or it has the genitalia of both. So the first Zohar excludes a female, and the second Zohar means it has to be an absolute Zohar. Tamim with the loy mum, without a physical defect. Al Pesach Al Moed teaches me metapel b'hava'osai ada azara. The man who promised to bring a korban has to bother himself to take it to the azara. Can't say let them pick it up. It's his obligation to bring it. Mahu Omer Yaakov Yaakov. It says in the pasuk Zochar Tamim Yakrivenu, a Pesach Al Moed Yakriv also. Why does it say 2 times Yakriv? To teach me, Afilin is Arva Oilas Ruven Ba'oila Shimon. If Mr. A and Mr. B, each one had a korban ola, and the 2 sheep, for instance, got mixed up, and we can't tell whose is whose, which is whose, Yakriv Kolechad L'Shem Mishahu. You give the 2 of them to the Kohen. You say, look, one of them is mine, one of them is his. You sacrifice the 2 of them, and each one of us will get credit for whichever one is his. The Kohen doesn't have to know which animal belongs to who. This is more complex. Mr. A had a korban ola. Mr. B had a plain animal, a sheep that's worth $100, but the 2 got mixed up. Mr. B doesn't want his animal to be brought as a korban. It's his $100. He never intended to bring a korban. Mr. B announces that I have a sheep for sale. Whoever needs to bring a korban ola, come see me. If Mr. X needs to buy a korban ola, he goes to Mr. B and says, I hear you have an ola for sale. Yeah, he says, I have a sheep, it's $100. Show me the sheep. I can't show you which one it is, it's one of these 2. Mr. A had an ola, I had a plain animal, the 2 got mixed up. But if you pay me $100, one of those 2 will be yours. That's fine, you can do that. So Mr. X gives Mr. B $100, and now Mr. X owns one of the 2 animals, even though we don't know which one. But the Tikar of Kalach is L'Shem Mishahu, and the 2 are given to the Kohen, and each one is brought for whomever it is. Whoever each animal belongs to gets credited. What if Mr. A has a korban ola, but Mr. B has an animal, a korban, or animal which was disqualified with all the disqualifications that we listed before? What happens if Mr. A has one kind of a korban and Mr. B has a different kind of a korban, which has a different form of sacrifice? So I would think you can do something with it. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, Yakirivan U, you can bring it. You can bring it and not the other. So if both are either ola, the same korban, or one is an ola and one is chulin, and the chulin can be made into an ola, there's a solution. But if one is kosher and one is non-kosher, there's no solution. Or if there are two different kinds of karbanos that need to be sacrificed differently, there's no solution. Yaakov also, he shall bring it, Malamed, it teaches us, Shekofenota, we force a person who promises a korban, we force him to bring it. Yochel Bal Korcha, I would think we can take it from him against his will. Talmud Lomer, the Pasuk says, Lirtzona, only for his will. Okay, it's that, how's that? Kofen also Achiyom Arotzani. We force the man to bring it until he says, I'm willing. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, let me explain it now. This idea of forcing somebody till he says, I'm willing, sounds like it's an insincere willing. The Rambam explains it regarding a man who needs to divorce his wife but doesn't want to. He can be forced by the Beis Din to divorce his wife, but he has to divorce her. He has to divorce her willingly. So we force him to say, "I'm willing." How does that work? So the Rambam's explanation is that really, in principle, every person wakes up in the morning to do the right thing. Nobody has a pathological desire to be evil. But even though he would like to do the right thing, but there are emotions that get involved. He's angry at someone, he feels stingy. There are different emotions that then overtake his desire to do the right thing, and all of a sudden his stinginess doesn't allow him to pay, or his anger at his spouse doesn't allow him to give a divorce. So when we force him to say, I'm willing, we're really forcing him to acknowledge what he really wants, because every person really does want to do the right thing, if not for emotional hostility. So therefore, this man who promised to bring a korban, promised to bring it. Then he got cheap and he decided he doesn't want to. So we force him to do what he really wants to do, except his cheapness is not letting him. Lifnei Hashem comes before the word v'samach in the next pasuk, that ain't smicha b'bama. When you're in front of God in the Mishkan or the Beit HaMikdash, there's a mitzvah to lay your hands on the head of the animal. But if you're bringing a korban on a backyard private altar, which was allowed at certain times in Jewish history, there's no mitzvah of smicha. You don't do v'samach if you're not lifnei Hashem. V'samach yoda rosh ha'olah v'nirtzu lo l'chaper olav. He should place his hands on the head of the olah, and it will be accepted for him to atone for him. Al rosh ha'olah, Rashi says, lahavi, to include olat chova l'smicha. Not only will a donation need smicha, the laying of the hands, but let's say an olah that you bring on Yontif, that's an obligatory korban, it also has smicha. Ulhavi olah tatzon, if you bring an olah from ovine, you also have to do smicha. But ha-olah, the olah, is an exclusionary letter, prat la-olah ta'ov. Don't do smicha on the olah of a bird. You'll do smicha with all your weight on a bird, you'll kill it. B'nirtzalo, it will be accepted for him and accomplish atonement. Al-mahu meratzalo, what does an olah atone for? Im tomar al-kritut, if you'll think that it can atone for somebody who deserves premature death, or mitot beis din, or capital punishment, or mitot b'dei shamayim, or death from heaven, or malkut, or lashes, harionshan amur, those punishments are clearly dictated in the Torah. So that can't be done with a korban olah. Ha'eino ela meratze, ela lasei v'alav shenitek lasei. It can only atone for a positive commandment or for a negative commandment which is repaired by a positive commandment. For instance, if someone steals, that's a prohibition, which can be repaired by then returning it, but it still is a stain. So if you bring a voluntary korban olah, it'll cover in case you didn't make kiddush, or you didn't wear tefillin, or you didn't eat matzah, which is a positive commandment, or you stole and then you gave it back, but there's still a stain. So the voluntary korban can forgive for either a violation of a positive commandment or the violation of a prohibition that can be repaired with a positive commandment. Pasuk v'shochat et ben abokar lifnei Hashem. He should shecht the cattle before God. V'krivu b'nei Aaron hakahanim es adam, and the b'nei Aaron the kahanim should present the blood, should bring the blood to the mizbech. V'zorko es adam al mizbech saviv asher pesach al moed. They should throw the blood upon the mizbech all around. Which mizbech? The mizbech that's at the entrance of the Ol Moed, the outside mizbech, not the golden interior one that's meant for incense. B'shachat he shall shecht, and v'hikrivu hakahanim, and then the kahanim should bring the blood. Mikabola ve'elech mitzvahs kuna, from the reception of the blood going forward, that's a mitzvah upon kohanim. Lamed ala shchita, but the shchita that comes before the reception of the blood, shekshera bezar, can be done by a non-kohen. Lifnei Hashem, the shechita has to be done before God, ba'azora, in the courtyard of the Mishkan or the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash. V'ikrivu, to bring zu kabola shihi horishona. This means receiving the blood which comes first. Umashmo loshen holacha, but the word ikrivu translated means to bring. So therefore, lamadnu shteyim. So we learned that both the reception of the blood and the bringing of the blood has to be done by kohanim. Bnei Aaron, a son of Aaron, yochel chalolim. What if he's an invalidated Kohen, but he's a son of a Kohen? But the Kohen, his father, married a divorcee. So can he do the avoda? Talmud Lomer, it says Bnei Aaron, but hakohanim. It's not enough to be the son of a Kohen. You have to actually be a Kohen. Es Adam v'zorko es Adam. It says 2 times the pasuk. V'krivu b'nei Aaron hakanim es Adam v'zorko es Adam. Ma Talmud Lomer dam shnei pamim. Why does it say dam twice? Lahavi, to include eshenesarav b'mino. If the blood of 2 korbanos ola got mixed up, there's a bowl of blood from korban ola A and a bowl of blood from korban ola B got mixed up. Obishenu mino. Or it could be, let's say, an ola and a shlomim, that both these 2 types of korbanos have the same application of blood. It's okay. You'll just apply each one, and you'll have in mind whatever it is, it is. Yochalaf b'psulim. What if bowl A was a valid bowl of blood and bowl B was invalid? Or what if bowl B was a korban chatas where the blood needed to go inside the sanctuary? Or blood B was from a chata that the blood had to be put on the outside mizbeach, but she'elu lemala. A chata, the blood has to be put on the 4 corners on top of the mizbeach, v'hi lamata, and an ola is put on the lower part of the mizbeach. So they have 2 different applications of blood. Talmud Lomer b'mokam achar damo. So in another place it says damo meaning its blood. Sometimes you can only bring it alone, and you can't bring it if it got mixed up with another. And sometimes you can bring it if it's mixed up with another. If it's mixed up with its own kind, or another kind that has the same application of blood, then you can bring each one, because whatever you do is fine. But if it's mixed with disqualified blood, or blood of a korban that has a different application, then you can't do anything with it. V'zorko, how do you throw the blood? Omed lamata, the Kohen stands on the ground. V'zorek, and he throws menakli from the utensil where he received the blood, lekotel ha-mizbech, against the wall of the mizbech, lamata michut ha-sikra, below the midline, keneged azovi is right at the corner. Lekach nemar saviv, that's why it says saviv. Let me explain. If you're holding a chumash in front of you, the top right-hand corner is the corner of north and east, and the bottom left-hand corner is the corner of west and south. When you stand on the floor and you throw something against the corner, it covers both sides, north and east. And you go to the other corner, you throw it against the corner, the blood will spread to west and south. So that's what it means. The blood now spreads on all 4 sides of the mizbeach. Maybe you take your finger and paint a line all around the mizbeach saviv. Talmud Lomer, it says v'zarku, you need to throw it. V'yefshel lahakiv b'zrika, you can't make a line all the way around by throwing. V'zarku, if we're going to focus on the word v'zarku, yachol b'zrika achas, I would think you do 1 throw. Talmud Lomer saviv. Somehow you have to get it all around the mizbeach. Haketzat. So how do we satisfy throwing and getting it on all 4 sides of the mizbeach? It's simple. Nois and shtei matanish and arba. You throw 2 times. 1 time you throw on the northeastern corner, and 1 time you throw on the southwestern corner, and every time you hit the corner, it spreads on 2 sides, and that way you split north and east, and then south and west. That's called Shtayim Shein Arba. Asher Pesach Ol Moed, which is at the entrance of Ol Moed, below Bizman Shul Mefurak, and not when the Ol Moed is disassembled, you can't do any korbanos on the Mizbeach. I'm going to stop here a little bit early. Maybe I'll have a chance tomorrow, and I'll do more and try to catch up.